Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to unmute myself, so I apologize. I'm glad that I remembered to put the captions on because at least you saw a little bit of what I was saying. Again, sorry, this is my first time using FeedLoop, so I'm hoping to get through without any more issues. Thank you for letting us know that you couldn't hear anything though. So you didn't really miss much. I was just getting started, so I'm more than happy to start it again. But so what I was saying is that Knowledgehook is an instructional guidance system. And so what that actually means is we have two parts to our tool. That's the formative assessment piece and then the real-time instructional supports. And so this is like a little map of what we're going to be walking through today. And so the first part is the formative assessment tools you can use in your classroom. And they're all curriculum aligned. We're going to be looking specifically at your curriculum today. And I will be demonstrating to you in the tool how all of these things work. But that's the first step in the little map that we're on. Once we complete an activity with our students, we then are able to get the student results. So we actually get a report letting us know how that specific formative assessment activity went. But then we take it one step further. You also receive teacher insights. So we're going to notify you of areas that students may be struggling in, and we call these focus areas. These are areas you may want to focus on with specific students. And that comes in the form of an in-app notification, but you also receive an email with teacher support resources. And that's the key here. All of this stuff gets us to those support resources. And we're going to walk through what those look like and how you can access them and what pieces we have to offer you. But they're really there to help you when your students are struggling in the moment. So they're arriving as the issues are occurring, and you're not having to go look for a secondary resource to help support you with that. Not to say that another resource isn't helpful. None of the things that I'm going to show you today are reinventing the wheel. Knowledgehook is really about making formative assessment easier for teachers in the classroom. And the last piece here is our built-in professional development. So as I was saying, I'm not sure if we talked about missions or not, or when we cut out, but I will start here and then we'll keep on going. So missions are an asynchronous activity. It allows you to differentiate to students as needed. So you can allow your students, if they are needing support one-on-one, if you have a small group of students who need support, or you have a whole class that you want to run a mission with, that's fine too. It really allows you to tailor those questions as needed. So if students are needing support in extra areas and you want to check for understanding in lower grade levels, perhaps, this is a way that you can do that. The next one we have is game shows. And game shows are similar to Kahoot in that it is a whole class activity and it's run in a game show style. And it actually encourages classroom discussion, because the way we've set it up is that teacher can actually use it as part of their lesson. They can use each question as the opportunity to have discussions and number talks around maybe the ideas and topics that they're learning about. And so instead of just talking to you about game shows, we're going to actually play one together. So I'm going to go into my Knowledgehook account and I'm going to give you some instructions on how to join as a student. I'm going to say, please make sure when you are creating a student account, because you will need to register as a student to participate. Do not use Google single sign-on, please, because I'm sure that that's attached to the account you may want to use for your teacher account in the future. So please, please, please don't use an email attached to the student account that you create. And so there's a couple of opportunities you have here to choose different pieces. You can have students capture thinking. This is a piece of our tool that actually allows you to gather student work. And that work actually can show you what students thinking is going on as they're answering those questions. And they can take an image of that and submit it, and it creates a portfolio for them within the tool. It also is automatically sent to collaborative. So we do this as a whole class. If we get 50%, we get a little GIF that shows us that's exciting, or you do have competitive mode. I always caution, use that only in specific situations. You are in charge of your class. You know how your class works better than I ever could. So you do have both of those options. So I'm going to invite you to be a student. Just going to wait for the music to end. So all you need to do is go to joinkh.com on any device, whether it's computer, phone, a different tab, all of those things are possible. Go to joinkh.com and put in the class code CAR9678. So I'm also going to put it in the chat here because sometimes that's easier. Class code is CAR9678. And we're just going to get a quick view on what the student side actually looks like and what you can expect when your students are using it in the classroom. So I'll give everyone a couple seconds to join. At a later date, if you haven't already created a teacher account. If you have created a teacher account, please sign out of it because you cannot sign in as a student and a teacher at the same time. All right, we're back. Sorry, everyone. It seems that it dropped again. I've turned my camera off. Maybe that will help. I'm just a voice in the machine now. So we're going to play this activity. If you still haven't joined us, the information's in the chat. We'll play. And if at any point that the stream keeps dropping, I do have a fully recorded version of this that I can also share with you. So I will give you resources in case things continue to drop. All right, so if you could please take the opportunity to answer this question and potentially get it incorrect. I know that's difficult, but I think that we would be able to then see how the reporting actually works and that notification piece might actually work. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to answer. So if you're looking at my screen, you'll be able to see that I can see how many students in my class have answered. This is a multiple choice question, so and these are quite large, so they don't show well on this specific screen. But on the phone, it actually looks a little bit better. Multiple choice is just one option of how we have questions. We have multi-select questions. We have input questions. You can put integer questions. And if you're feeling really creative, you can actually create your own questions. And that actually includes things like full survey questions. So students can answer in full sentences and give you whatever you're looking for from that question. So you can see here, I can see how long it's taking. There is no timer. This is done on purpose. We've been doing this in order for to encourage students to choose the correct answer, not to be trying to answer it the fastest. As well, you as the teacher have a lot of opportunities to control how this is going in your classroom. So if the question's not working out, you can skip it. If you don't want to continue, you don't want to wait, you can end the question. You also have the opportunity to completely finish the game if it's not working the way you want it to. And these are all built in because we know that classrooms can sometimes not go the way that we're planning them to go. So this is available to you. So when the students all answer the question, it'll actually pop up the answers, but I also have the opportunity to press end question. And so I can see the breakdown here. 50% chose the first one, 25 got it right, 25 got it incorrect. I can now have the opportunity to have a conversation with the class and we can talk about why do we think people answered it this way? And we can dissect where some misconceptions might be as we go. So it's just a way for you to have conversations with your students around the formative assessment that you're doing. And as I said before, you can add it as a part of your lesson. So we're going to do 2 more questions. Feel free to answer them, preferably incorrectly, so that we can make sure that we're seeing the proper. So we can see how things work on the reports side. So yes, let's do that. I'll give you about 20 seconds to answer, and then I'll move on to the next question. All right. Hurry and get your answers in. Perfect. We're going to move on to the last question. Excellent. So we can, again, have conversations around what's happening. Again, we're only 4 people. This does take way more time if we were, or 6 people, I guess. This would be way more time if we were in a much larger class. So I do always caution when you are doing a game show, make sure that you kind of pick a small amount of questions to start. All right, it looks like we're back. Thank you everyone so far for your patience. We're back, great. Thank you for your patience so far. I know that the team is working hard to keep us up and going. Me too, Nick, me too. I hope it sticks as well. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to put those resources I promised you in the chat, just in case something happens. These kind of cover everything I'm gonna talk about today. And again, there's plenty of opportunities on our website to see more about these things, but I really want to make sure that you have this resource with you just in case. I know the pitfalls of technology. I've been training online for quite some time now, so I totally understand things happen. So I just want to be flexible in how we're approaching this. So I put the document in there. Please wait until it's not working or I'm done to look at it, because it could be very distracting. But we're going to get back to where we were in this presentation. So thank you for answering the questions. I'm going to press end, and we can see we all got it wrong. Great. I appreciate all of you for getting it incorrect. And so now we're going to finish the game. And so it's going to tell me how many correct answers we have. There's some feedback we have. Students can offer feedback too. You can see that on your side. But it immediately pops us into our reports section. And so anytime you run an activity within Knowledgehook as a teacher, you will receive a report. And so I'm going to show you quickly what that report looks like. You'll notice at the top you have some quick summary. This will show you quickly and easily where students fell based on that specific activity. So those 3 questions. You can click in, you can see who it was, things like that. This also kind of gives you guidance on who you may need to follow up with. And that's the key idea we had here for this quick summary piece, is that you might not necessarily have the time to completely analyze this report to death. But you do have the opportunity to quickly see at the top, okay, who struggled, who didn't, who's good, who can I work with, and who doesn't need to be addressed with. But we still do have all this information for you to dissect as well. So if I unhide the names, I can see how everyone did. I also have most challenging to least challenging questions. So again, we're only a small group, so it's not, the percentages don't really mean too much, especially as we're trying to get things incorrect. But question 3, 100% of the students who answered got it incorrect. So if that was my whole class, and that was a really key question for me, or my hinge point question, that's a problem. And I may need to go back and reevaluate how I addressed it to the whole class potentially. But if it's only a couple of students and that was my key question, maybe those are the students that I pull aside to do some group work, small group work with, or even individual work, because we can further break it down and see how each student individually answered within the questions as well. So I can click in and see which students actually chose this specific answer. So maybe I want to connect with Megan and Teresa and have a conversation about, okay, why do we think this happened? How can I address this with them to make sure that we're closing this area of struggle and focus area? And so with that, I'm actually going to show you those support resources that can help you close those areas of struggle or focus areas that we've reported back to you. So you'll see it up here, focus areas. We have our in-app notification because we just struggled. We just had a struggle in one of our activities. I will also receive an email in the evening telling me that there were some students who struggled as well. So you don't necessarily have to check it as soon as you finished it. We're going to remind you that there was an issue. So if I go into this focus areas page, I can see which students were struggling in which area, and I have access to my teacher support resources. And so I'm going to actually click into there and talk to you a little bit about each resource. So the first resource we're going to talk about is the math background document. And this document was actually really built to help plan around misconceptions and to be used prior to teaching. And you can access them prior to teaching. I'll show you where to find them. But this is our math background document. And what does this show us? The first thing it does is it shows us the areas that students are going to struggle. That's the first thing it's showing to us. And this is really built around the pedagogical content knowledge. So making sure that we're understanding where students came from in order to support their learning in a progression, because all of learning is a progression. We can't move forward unless we understand the building blocks to get there. So this highlights some of the areas that those building blocks might be missing. And I know our team really tried to make sure we're modeling it in as many ways as we possibly can, because not only do all teachers teach differently and all students learn differently, but all teachers also learn differently. So trying to give you as many examples of how you can talk about this with your students in order to help them be successful. And so the other thing about this is that there's also a glossary of terms at the end. So the last page on every time you have one of these documents is a glossary. And we've done this purposefully because language in mathematics is not necessarily always used outside of the classroom. And there's a very specific usage and knowledge that you need in order to successfully discuss mathematics. So we want to make sure that we're using the correct terminology, and we're actually giving that to our students as well, so that they have the opportunity to have those deep mathematical conversations with support from things like glossaries of terms. So, and a deeper understanding of what those things actually mean. The next one we have is a misconception chart. And so once it loads, the misconception chart is by far my favorite resource that we have, because it's laid out so simply to help support you as the teacher. It is basically, what is the problem that my student is having? So what am I seeing? Here's a problem. And then what can I do about it? And it's just laid out in a way that's extremely useful. It goes from most common misconceptions to least common misconceptions. And it's really there to help support you when you're seeing your students have an area that they may need more support in. And so they vary in length depending on the topic area. Obviously, some areas have larger and more misconceptions than others, but this is available as well. Finally, we have intervention questions. And these are actually questions you can use. It's a worksheet. You can print it out as a PDF. You can work with your student directly or students to be able to actually close those misconceptions potentially, and to help them work through those potential areas of struggle. And so we're loading. Perfect. And so when we scroll through, we see obviously there's questions. There's also an answer sheet at the bottom. But the really key thing here is that we've created a look for an observations chart for you. And what this does is it tells you the focus of each of these questions. It tells you what you should be seeing your students doing and looking for while they're actually completing these questions. And any notes that we thought were pertinent to help support you as your students are working through these, either one-on-one with you or in small group with you. These are really meant for that intervention, that remediation piece. All right. So let me switch back into my presentation and see if we got everything. Now we moved into real-time instructional supports. We talked about those. This is just to mention that our questions are connected directly to these targeted math supports. So the questions that are already built in there for you, you do not have to create them. They are already created and have those targeted support pieces available to you. The support materials, we talked about these. These are just quick views. The next thing I want to talk about is the impact challenge. And so before I moved into that, I do want to point out to you how you can get these resources prior to teaching. So these are available to you on the activities page. While I'm here, I'm going to point out a few things to you. So the first thing I want to point out is you have the ability to choose the grades you need. So if I think we're in grade 5 here, but potentially have students working in grade 3 in a specific content area, I can get that curriculum I need in order to support that student and to check their understanding, to see where they are, and potentially get resources to support that as well if they are still struggling. There's also some featured activities here. This is where I always encourage teachers who are new to using the product to start. You have warm-ups here. You know that these are going to be aligned to the curriculum, but also to the resource documents, and they are going to be pre-grade knowledge. So we're in grade 5. That means this is going to be grade 4 concepts. You also have exit tickets. Exit tickets are current grade concepts, and they are going to, again, be aligned curriculum-wise as well as resource-wise. So the other thing I wanted to point out to you is, okay, how do I access these documents prior to instruction? Maybe I want to take a look at them before I use them or before I assign anything to my students. Anywhere you see this light bulb, you can click it and it will give you access to those documents that are available for that specific content area. And again, it's the same 3 documents every time. Math background, which is pedagogical content knowledge, meant to be used prior to teaching, but still valuable after. Misconception chart, which is valuable after students are struggling and you've seen some areas that you're not sure how to address, that can help support you with that. And then the intervention questions as part of that, that place to actually address those potential issues. I always like to point out as well that we didn't reinvent the wheel on these resources. All of this information is available in plenty of other math resources. The only difference is that we've made them easy to use. They come to you when there's a problem. You don't have to go looking for them. And that's really the whole reason Knowledgehook exists, is for us to try and make formative assessment easier in the math class, because we do know it's extremely common to do exit tickets, for example. You have a class of 30, you do an exit ticket. That means you have to take home 30 exit tickets, mark all 30 of them, make instructional decisions based on what you're seeing. And potentially you know what the issue is, potentially you don't. So then you have to potentially address some resources, figure out how to close the misconceptions that may potentially be all over the place. And then you have to start all over the next day. And so we just wanted to take a little bit of the weight off of having to do those types of formative assessments. You can do all that formative assessment quite easily with Knowledgehook, and Knowledgehook will give you the reports and the support that you need when students are struggling. And again, you don't have to use them. If you already know how to address that, great, that's excellent. It's there in case maybe the way you thought you were going to address it doesn't work for that student. It's always available to just support you. And that's always my key takeaway when we're talking about Knowledgehook, is it's really built for the teacher. Students love it. It's fun. They have a lot of really great engaging pieces on the student side, but it's a teacher tool first. All right. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is called the impact challenge. I do have a little video here. I'm not sure if the sound is going to work. Let me try it. And if the sound doesn't work, let me know. And if not, that's fine. I can just talk about it.
As a teacher, you know that meeting the needs of your students requires you to continuously grow your own knowledge and practice of how to teach effectively. But you also have to deal with the whirlwind of all the important things that need to be done each day just to keep your class moving forward. So how do you manage both? Welcome to the Impact Challenge, a simple, focused, and achievable way to build on the effectiveness of your own mathematics teaching while making an immediate impact on your students. The Impact Challenge is simple. Use Knowledgehook to help you select a focus area based on the needs of your students. Use that focus area to build your own learnings as well as to try new methods of meeting the needs of your students in that area. Knowledgehook will provide you with a number of expertly designed resources to support you in that effort. Finally, to complete the challenge, work with your students to apply what you've learned, and when you are ready, measure the impact it has had. Improvement does not have to mean working harder and longer. It often means having a focus and using that focus to improve yourself in a manageable, productive, and impactful way. That's what the Impact Challenge is designed to do. We hope you take us up on the challenge.
I'm guessing the sound was okay. So that's the Impact Challenge. And so, as I said, the tool is really built. Sorry, I ended up closing my Knowledgehook teacher account. So the tool is really built to help support you as a teacher. And so this is really meant to support you in choosing specific areas of focus that you can use in your classroom to focus on student need. And so the Impact Challenge is based on the teacher and inquiry building cycle that Helen Timperley talks about in a lot of her research. And so what we've done here on this chart is really pulled out for you the key areas in the teacher inquiry and knowledge building cycle. There are plenty of others, but these 4 are the major ones that are necessary to make a successful impact on your students' learning. And so we've pulled them out and then we've shown you what they are within the Knowledgehook tool. So you can do all of these steps in Knowledgehook. And you might notice that my screen is purple. Anytime you see a purple button or checkbox or anything like that within Knowledgehook, it means it has to do with the Impact Challenge. And so how it works is you select a focus area. So we analyze the data for you. We tell you where there's some struggles occurring. Then you pick that area. We let you choose what you think would be the area that you want to focus on based on student need. And so then from there, use your teacher support resources for that focus area, which is part of the professional inquiry and learning. So taking the time to learn about that topic, that content area to help support your students in their own learning. Next, work with your students, which is purposeful instruction. Make sure you're either connecting with the students who've struggled, if it's a whole class issue, taking the time to work through those misconceptions and purposefully showing them how to address those issues that they may be having. Finally, measuring the impact. So in our system, you can run a growth report. You can see if there's been any growth from pre-assessment to post-assessment. So all of this you can do within Knowledgehook. This is the impact word. We'll talk about that after, but I'm going to show you how it works on our tool. So if you recall, we all worked together. We did an activity. We got a report for that. We also got a focus area notification. And you'll notice on this page, there's those purple things that I was talking about. There's a purple banner and there's a purple button. So I only have one area that I can focus on. But as you work through the curriculum with your students, you're going to have plenty of areas you can focus on. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose recursive pattern rules and relationship to relationship rules. That's going to be my area of focus. And every time I go into the Impact Challenge, it's going to remind me of what steps I need to follow. So great, we've found the focus area. Now let's access the teacher support resources. We've already done that together. We've already looked at them. Now it's time to work with our students. Potentially we worked with our students. Maybe we did that in class today. The thing is I'm just showing you how it works in the system. The timeline it takes you to do this is not prescriptive. It's really based on your classroom management and your class itself. Have you had time to work with your students, look at the resources. Great. Once you've done that, click that button and say, let's get started. So let's do all that stuff that we talked about, those 2 steps. Once I've done those 2 steps, I'm ready to complete this challenge. Again, as I said, there's no prescriptive timeline. It's based on you. You're in charge of the timeline. And so have you had the time to do inquiry or professional learning prior to the post-assessment? Yes or no? If I press yes, I can assign the post-assessment. So the key thing here is that the pre-assessment is any activity you run in Knowledgehook. Anytime you run a game show or a mission, you can do an impact challenge on it if you want to. The system is going to encourage you to do it once. You'll get little nudges to complete it. You'll have a little checklist that you can do. And actually, I can show you the checklist. So if I'm on my class page, I can see the checklist here. And that will sit there only for one time. So if I complete it, we're going to just go back to where we were. Yes, I can then assign that. So I'm going to press assign. It's going to be assigned as a mission. And as I said, with missions, you can assign to whole class or individuals. So I saw that Teresa and Megan really struggled in this, and I want them to, and I've worked with them. I took some time to look at some resources. I addressed their issues and I worked with them. And now I want to see how far we've come. And so all I do is press launch. And so, yay, we've completed the impact challenge. So on the student side, the student will then see that that mission is available to them. They don't know who else it's available to. They don't know if it's a whole class activity. That's not indicated to them. But what that does for you is it creates a report that when completed will give you information from the first report. So this is our original report. This is what Teresa and I did in the activity. We can see the original. There will be a second report based on their answers to the questions I've assigned them. And then thirdly, you'll get an actual growth score. So you're going to see a percentage of overall growth based on how they did in the pre-assessment versus the post-assessment for each individual student, but then also as a class. So this is really just a very, it's a really very easy way to do a pre and post-assessment and get a little bit of information on whether or not the student learning moved forward. And so, as I said at the beginning, I think I was muted, I'm throwing a ton of information at you. Please don't feel overwhelmed and like you've missed something. There is so much here for me to talk about, and I'm not even getting into most of it. I'm just giving you the full walkthrough. Again, I also shared that document with you that really helps explain all the different pieces that I talked about further. As well, you'll see at the bottom, there's opportunities to sign up for our community of practice, where we also have more Knowledgehook sessions, or we also have bi-weekly training that is available as well. So if you do have a colleague who was unable to come today that you want to share Knowledgehook with, feel free to share that document with them. And so the last thing I want to talk about here is the Impact Award. And so this is an initiative we started this year that recognizes teachers across Canada putting knowledge or putting research and knowledge inquiry and all those types of formative assessment tools into practice within their classroom. And it's not just about Knowledgehook. We've taken the time to reach out to teachers who are working with Knowledgehook in their classroom, but also to interview them to understand how they're putting research into practice. And we actually awarded 22 teachers across Canada this year with impact awards to recognize the hard work that they're doing in their classroom. And the way that we evaluate that is based on researchers. We have a team of researchers who watch these interviews, who listen to the different techniques and tools and strategies that these teachers are completing, and give us feedback and the teachers' feedback on what they're doing and why it's effective. So this is just a piece that's available, and it will be available to all of you. The Impact Challenge will, as soon as you start using Knowledgehook, you'll have access to the Impact Challenge, which means that you could get an email from one of our teammates asking you to share your story with us. So I just wanted to highlight that as a way that we're really trying to celebrate and recognize teachers. And so the 3 things that I would say to take away from the Impact Challenge is that it is immediate impact on your students. You're choosing things based on what they're working on and where they're struggling. It's a lead measure for math improvement because it does give you information as you go through the year. You're not waiting till tests. You're not waiting till, I don't know if you guys do standardized tests, but we have standardized tests in Ontario, and we're not waiting till the end of the year to make instructional decisions. And it's flexible to support different types of learning, whether that's for the student or for yourself. So it's very flexible in how it can be used. And it's really, really great way to connect with what your students are doing directly in the classroom. All right, so I think I'm close to the end of my presentation. These are the last steps. If you haven't had an opportunity to sign up for Knowledgehook prior to today, I really encourage that you do. I encourage you to create your first class, assign an activity, and complete an impact challenge once school starts, obviously. And so the only thing I'll say is that in order to make sure that your account gets automatically upgraded and gives you access to all those support resources, please use your Genespes email when you're signing up for Knowledgehook. If you've already created an account and you didn't use that email, contact us. I will give you the contact email for our support. Let me just find my mouse. There we go. Oops. It's not cooperating. Sorry. It's a problem with using 2 screens. Okay, so the support email address is support@knowledgehook.com. I will put that in the chat when I find my mouse. Sorry about this. Okay, I found it on this screen. And yeah, that's the end of my presentation. If you do have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat right now, and I will attempt to answer them for you. But no, Teresa, this is completely free to everyone. We are working with at the provincial level, so all of our premium stuff is available to you at no cost to you. So feel free to tell everyone in your school and anyone that you know that they have access to Knowledgehook with the support resources and all of those as of right now. So anyone is welcome to sign up and use those support resources to help support their students. I'll just put my camera on now so you can just see me instead. Perfect. Yeah, if there's any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. If not, I was going to put the email in there, support@knowledgehook. Knowledgehook.com. Support@knowledgehook.com is where you can find access to all of our support people. We also, Rachel, that's a great question. Your account will have something when you create your first class. So let me show you my screen again. Let's go with this one. So when you're seeing my whole screen, but what you can see here that there's it says premium up here. I don't know if you can see it that well. I'll zoom in. Right up here in the corner beside the Knowledgehook, it says premium. That will let you know that your class is premium. As well, when you create your class and you're in your classes section, it'll say premium at the top as well. If it doesn't say premium up there, connect with support@knowledgehook.com. They may need to help you switch your email over if you didn't use Genespes, or if there's any issue, like contact them and they'll be able to upgrade it and make sure that you have access to that full content of support resources. All right. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes, of course. Create as many test classes as you want. There is no limit. You are perfectly capable of going in there, adding your students. You have a few ways, test out the different ways to add your students. You can add them through, you can add them yourself. You can have them add themselves. There's also Google Classroom connection, so you can always pull them from Google Classroom as well. So definitely go in, play around. I would always suggest going in, playing around with the teacher side, but also make yourself a student in your class and check out the student side and all the different things they have available to them, so that when you do use it with your students for the first time, you're really confident in how their side works, because we all know students understand tech way better than we do. As well, when you're on our site, you might have noticed in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a little chat bubble. So when you click that, there'll be a chat bot that pops up that can help you to find any knowledge-based articles that you may need. But if you can't get what you're looking for, it will direct you to a person who is there. She is usually there Monday to Fridays, 7 a.m. Eastern time. Yes, don't make yourself a student with you don't need an email technically as a student. It's only Google single sign-on that will need an email. If you create it separately and just press create and don't press sign on with Google, you don't need the email address. I hope that makes sense. All right, thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon. As I said before, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your summer to spend a little bit of time with me to learn about Knowledgehook. And thank you for your patience through the tech difficulties. I know Nick was working his hardest to make sure it worked, so I really appreciate your support on that and all of your patience in making sure that we got this off the ground. As I said, there's plenty of resources in the chat. I'm going to put the resource doc one more time just in case. If you're interested in looking at it, it's there. It's view only, so you should be able to take a look. There's a bunch of links there to help support you with your journey in using Knowledgehook. And it was my pleasure to be here with you today. And if you do decide to come to our community of practice or to sign up for one of our bi-weekly sessions, you may see me again. So thank you so much for your time, and I very much appreciate all of you being here, and a special thanks to Nick for making this all work.